So feel free to open your mic and talk later if you need to. Hi, my name is Jenny. I'm running the ICX webinar for the MC selection of 1819. Don't worry, all this will be recorded and posted later. Let me share you my screen of the PowerPoint presentation. I think that is sharing the screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Awesome, cool, right, thank you. All right, so this is the ICX webinar, Introduction to IGT in ICX in Australia. I'll run you through briefly what we'll be talking about today. We'll have a lot of space later, I believe, for Q&As because it won't run for a whole hour, the content at the very least. I'll briefly just introduce myself and then going through a bit of expectation setting so you understand what you can expect from this webinar. Then I'm going to go through a little bit of the ICX history in ICX Australia so far, then go into the 17-18 term IGT context, what we are planning to do in 2018 and the goals there, and also just a couple of things about the network trend or what you can expect there, and Q&A at the very end. Just a little introduction of myself. Hi, my name is Jenny Nguyen, MCVP IGT, and I come originally from ICX in Melbourne University, so I've always been in ICX in Australia. So if you do have any questions further later about my experience on how I felt it was like, especially being from the entity and then coming into the national team on the entity, you can have a couple of questions later. The expectations here is that mainly this webinar will be based on my explanation, less on the slides. The slides are just some details there that we can look at, but we'll also pay attention of my explanation itself. Second one, if you have any questions, save it to the Q&A space unless on the slide something really doesn't make sense. For example, if it's an acronym or a typo, anything along those lines. In addition to that, you won't actually get everything you actually need to know about MCVP IGT in ICX in Australia from this. It is just an overview of what has been happening so far. And just the fourth one, just be quite open-minded to the different realities of ICX in Australia. It may be different to different entities and whatnot. Everything's quite different. Any questions so far before I begin into the history of ICX in Australia?
No, you're good.
Awesome, thank you. All right, into the history of ICX over here is, firstly, we only sell currently global talent as a product in incoming exchange for ICX in Australia. Although it's called incoming exchange, we actually only do one product. So currently we have the 11 LCs in ICX in Australia and only 7 LCs actually run incoming global talent as a product. ICX in Australia does not do incoming volunteer. We do not sell that because it's actually very difficult to run a sustainable IGV. It was conducted around the years of 2013 to mid-2017. However, we no longer do it because it made huge loss for the entity. So we just don't actually focus on it for our current year, and just in the future, not many people in the network has knowledge on how to run IGV here. The other bit was ICX Australia also does not run incoming global entrepreneurs due to visa restrictions. We've run it before, and then we realized later in 2017 that it was actually not allowed under the visa that we are sponsoring with Australia. So those two products are out. We only sell and exclusively only sell global talent in ICX. Just some of the ICX history, so in terms of IGT only. So I'm gonna run you through a couple of different numbers and metrics and then tell you the main learning and the inference from that. So the data will go back all the way from 2013 until 2018, so ranging until the date of today. So the more up-to-date information, you're the first one to hear it. So this is opens, and what opens are the number of contracts that we do open with companies and opportunities there. So ranging of, you can see that 2016 was the year that we were able to do the most. And the comment there was MC 14 and 15 actually brought a lot of sales capacity into the term. So around 2014 to 2015, there was a lot of emphasis on IGT, a lot of emphasis on how to do sales, a lot of pushing, a lot of culture building at that point in time as well, from what I understand. And that was able to give a good pipeline and also give a lot of knowledge for the entity that lasted up until the next couple of years onwards. So as you can see, in 2016, there was a large number of opens. Inclusively, last year, we were able to do 39 opens. As you can see, it was a huge drop from 2016 itself. So sales tool were actually implemented around 2014, 2015 term in terms of like how to track members, a lot of sales, more knowledge and culture building there. So 2017, we also dropped from 9 LCs running IGT as a product to 7 LCs. So this also impacted the results of 2017 Opens itself. And at the current status, also only 7 LCs still run IGT as well out of the 11. On over to approved at this point is when the candidates are actually already chosen by the company and they're ready to kind of go. So in 2015, actually gave a lot of pipeline for the first time in that entity before. So with a lot of opens, as you can see from before, from 2015, that was able to actually convert over to approves. That's why in 39 and 2016, 2015 and 2016, there was a lot of approves there. And in 2017 was approves following on from 2016 itself. Account delivery was starting to build in apparently the 2015 year or so. Just as of here, there were very little numbers, so the account delivery wasn't as strong, but there was more of a focus starting over this period. As you can see also, even though 2015 and 2016 were high years in terms of opens, the number that was able to actually be converted over to approves and be matched were quite poor. It'll be around like half also. This was one also because LCs didn't have the knowledge or understanding how to do account delivery or matching as well, or in terms of selling, but however, selling not the correct profiles that we can actually have and not understanding where to actually source that. So in 2015 and 2016, that was why the conversion rate is as it is. In 2017, with the 39 opens there, we currently have 29 approves. The ones that are left over are currently in 2018. So we've got a couple of opens currently in ICX in Australia waiting to be approved, which came from 2017. Also, the other thing is ICX in Australia doesn't know how to do IR very well. It's one, because we don't actually have the big quantity numbers, so we've never really looked at it. Two, we've also had the privilege of getting a lot of applicants. The concern or challenge that we're facing right now is that although we get a lot of applicants because everyone is quite attracted to come to Australia to begin with, we actually don't get as specific or quality candidate towards the profile that we actually need. And ICX Australia hasn't had the ability or the knowledge to where to reach out to or have been doing IR ourselves. So we don't sell any particular country or sell any particular profile in general. We do sell 3 profiles. It's very general though. We tell them that we have a high supply in IT talent, marketing, and business admin, and that's as much as we understand. Until we actually understand what the company needs more, then we actually go more research on a base-to-base concept. So that is the number of proofs. Moving on to, this is the number of realizes. So you would see there is a ongoing conversion from the year 2014, 2015, 2016, from opens to approves to realize itself. So in realize 2016, we had the highest number of realizes. Last year, it was that amount. And this year we've had one so far. So actually on Monday, which was yesterday, we had an EP realize. So that's very exciting because just the status of ICX in Australia, we don't have as many realizes as we would like. So these years would take into consideration 2016 and 2017, Google accounts increased the 50% of the results. So we do have a long-term partnership with Google. So they're taking about like 7 to 10 or a little bit more in 2016 in terms of how many interns. However, in 2018 and moving forward, there is a conversation that Google may not actually need us to provide that exchange anymore, and that's currently in the works. So that is a concern and a challenge to be aware about. Value delivery was also introduced more strongly in 2016, as you can see, because of the more number of realizers there. So, and also in 2016, there was a lot of hand-holding in terms of how to manage accounts due to the network actually being quite inexperienced the years before that. And so even with this year, the focus, my apologies, in MC 17-18 term, we haven't been focusing a lot on account delivery. It is only at this point have we actually moved not focus so much, but actually more resources into it, because we do have a lot more accounts that are open. As you can see, the struggles with 6 opens we currently have, we're struggling to find applicants, is because we haven't really focused on IR before. So mainly ICX and IGT most of the time is focusing on how to actually open new sales, because we just don't have that quality in terms of numbers, in terms of volume wise. So moving on to a little bit of conversion, definitely these PDFs will be released a bit later, so you can have more time to have a look at it. I'll just pinpoint a couple of things, which is the one in the red. If you don't understand what the metric actually mean or measures, the definition is there. Don't worry too much about what they mean. You can have a look at them later. What I do want to highlight the most is lead connections to meetings and meetings to open is our biggest bottleneck on getting quantity in terms of opens, because opens is where it'd be a nice problem to actually have more opens, and we need to focus on IR. Currently, lead connect mean that the company actually replies to us, and actually meetings is the attendance of meetings itself. The conversion rate is extremely low. And the other one is the amount of meetings that actually get converted to opens. These are our lowest conversion rates, and this is the biggest bottleneck. Other bits are relatively easier per se, or perhaps a good problem to have from opens onwards, in terms of like that's just how we actually deliver the account. But here we're not even getting the amount of opens or opportunities with companies to begin with. So that is the biggest problem. So meetings is here and lead connect is here as well. This is actually our goal, and this is where our actuals are. So very extremely low. Then moving on to 17-18 term. So I'm going to walk through a little bit about the couple of strategies that we had at the very start of our term. So mid-2017, this was implemented around July, August last year. So these are the main strategies at the very least. So I'll run through them and I'll speak to them. So the first one was entity-wide tracking. So what this meant was per member of each ITT team, from the 7 LCs was tracked nationally. I have one overall tracker that has everyone's name there, everyone's results from week to week, and what we actually do and why this is implemented, so to keep the entire network accountable. And when I do have the chats with all the VPs or with their entire IGT commission itself, everyone knows what is going on, everyone knows who's doing well and what, and the reason behind that is so everyone can see who's doing well, so see what they are doing well in that we can actually understand and implement, and who's not doing it well, and understand how can we help what's going on so we can actually firefight that. So this is in addition because IGT activity cannot be tracked on Expert before opens. So from opens onwards, Expert is quite accurate. Before that, in terms of all the meetings or leads, it's quite inaccurate over the years. It's been different spreadsheets and whatnot. So I've localized it to just one spreadsheet that the LCs can use and are expected to actually fill out. The other one was sales tour. So what this means is that myself, I go visit each of the states to visit the LCs physically to actually educate and upskill the membership. So why? It's also to get a network sensing, understanding the problems on the ground, and actually seeing the members, talking to them what they think and understand and know, and at the same time capacitating the memberships directly. At this point, when I did the sales tour, a lot of new members were recruited. So this was when came in and actually told them what sales is, what IGT was about as well. Third one was an IGT national recognition campaign. So in October and November, I had a campaign of like counting each activity that was being done in the metrics here. So each activity had a point to it. So it's a point system, and then everyone got rewarded based on the number of points they accumulated. The reason was to actually drive the correct sales pipeline. For example, where I needed more work on, which is like say meetings or whatnot, I would give that a higher number of points to drive the correct behavior, and at the same time recognize and show the network that IGT was doing a lot of work, even though in October and November was the busy and exam period. The fourth one was created an IGT entity Facebook group. So this was also created in, I think it was October. All IGT members were added into one Facebook group called IGT Network. And the reason why was to drive a lot of engagement and conversations, to hype up activity. And the campaign was in here. Each week an update would be placed on here in terms of who was, at the leaderboard, and that was what was happening, and to recognize members. And every time we had a realized EP or an open contract, we always take a selfie and chuck it on there to drive a lot of engagement. The fifth one was having individual meetings with all the VPs on a fortnight basis. So it'll be a 15 to 20 minute call with each LCVP from IGT. This is just to have more one-on-one to understand the local and realities, to actually shape what the national strategies are, so that we can actually have it cater to what they actually need, like what's going on in your LC, how your team going, what are your numbers like this, like what help do you need on. Those were the main general strategies that I had for IGT for 17-18 terms so far. I'm going to go through what actually worked, part of some of the strategies, and what didn't work, so we can understand a bit more than that. What worked was the entity-wide tracking. This actually gave a lot of transparency to the network, so everyone knows what everyone was doing, so everyone was quite clear and quite, in a sense, drove a little bit like friendly competition of like who can do more and like who can do what, and then to reach which LCs actually reach out. For example, if an LC is doing really well at meetings, okay, how are you doing well in meetings? How do you manage your team? That actually opens up the conversation with the commission and the network to actually discuss and collaborate. The second was the IGT National Recognition Campaign. This actually drove a lot of activity in a time period that was quite busy for everyone, in particular university students doing exams. So this gave members the incentive and visually see what the rest of the entity was up to in terms of IGT. There's a lot of conversation that all the members are like, oh, you know, a lot of people are doing IGT activity in the network. Like it got them a little bit excited and quite felt a little bit more maybe inclusive, or like they belong to something, and like drove a lot of friendly competition. For example, each LC would be like, oh, that LC is doing this. We need to get more opens. We need to get to more meetings. What didn't work, it didn't work super well, that could have been, I guess, improved on, was one with sales tour. It wasn't 100% aligned to what the LC needed. At that point, didn't sense well enough of what the LC actually needed. For example, some LCs were already done some induction stuff, some they ran a couple of things already. However, the sales tour content was done the same for each LC, whereas they were all at different places at that point in time. So the tour had the same objective for all of them. So what could be better is that to do a sensing of where each LC is currently at and how to actually cater that, I guess, objective for some of them slightly. Manpower, some of the LCs had very, very small IGT teams. So actually the goal that they actually wanted to achieve, they didn't have enough members and manpower to actually do the sales actuals and sales like activity. So a lot of often is that when members are not performing or they get fired or they do leave, the VPs and the LCs do end up being left with a very small group of manpower. So there was a lot of LCs who did want to do activity. They didn't have enough talent there. So there was no, a lot of like pre-planning or like foresight on that. The third one was when LCVP are demotivated or perhaps inactive or a bit not aligned. So when LCVPs were demotivated or inactive in terms of activities or even updating the scores or whatnot, was not able, on my behalf, was not able to act on this quickly enough to understand what's going on, how can this be, you know, fixed right away, like wasn't able to kind of see the signs or the flags there, so impacted the results in the pipeline later on. IR understanding, Australia does not have a large number of opens, so we don't know how to do effective IR at all. That's something I'm currently looking into. So we're struggling in terms of getting the correct candidates. We get a lot of people, but the correct candidates, not so much. So that drags our process time out a lot, and that's the reason why we currently still have 6 opens that aren't been able to get accepted or approved as of yet. So for 2018, so these are some of the plans and the goals from the LCs total up based on what they've planned for the year. So these goals are from the 1st of February 2018 to the 31st of January 2019. So again, some of the definitions are above here on slide 10. However, this is the goals that they are currently having. We envision to have 87 opens in the year of 2018, majority of the year of 2018, and it comes all the way down here with some of the conversion rates. Each LC had a slightly different conversion goal based on their last year and also based on the MC recommendation. So that's like what we're working towards at the moment. And on slide 15 is the 2018 plans and goals, some of the strategies that are currently being in place so far. So sales tour again, however, the state visits to deliver the focus of the month and push sales peak. So in March in particular, this is when a lot of meetings should be hyped up. And this is where myself, I will be traveling around to actually get to educate and capacitate the LCs to be able to do this. Also the push results, and also talk to the EB and the LCP of that entity for them to understand where and how to actually help and track IGT at that point in time. So March is quite a crucial period there. IGT network campaign, as I can see that campaigns last year worked quite well. Right now I'm going to be also running campaigns to drive aligned activity, and most likely will happen again in March and April, because this is when the activity needs to be at its highest to give us more of a pipeline later on to have opens. The other thing was IR, definitely starting to sell profiles of strong IR partners instead of just doing general sales, going to companies, be like, hey, do you want a global talent? But actually going to them and showing them what candidates and really strong profiles we actually have out there that actually assist with sales. The fourth one is currently I have an EST and they are working on these 4 aspects. So B2B marketing, of which is actually going to companies with having more functional, with more materials, with more sales material, and at the same time using networks such as LinkedIn and doing more research on that, how we can actually better communicate with our partners and businesses. Account delivery, like last semester we weren't focusing on it. We are going to have more frameworks and delivery on this. So the EST will be in charge of helping the entity understand what they can and need to do. Sales training, sorry, my typo, sales trainings, not sales transing. It's assisting training for the network. So actually sensing out what does the network actually need, what the members need, what do the LCs all need, particularly maybe some LCs might need more help somewhere else. So this person will be actually creating sales content and delivering such things such as webinars or communication or content. CRM refresh is we're currently using Podia as a CRM system. We're wanting to move it to HubSpot. However, this project should finish by February or March. And the best part of this SEC is that all of them are current VPs. So they know the network quite well already and they know what's going on in IGT itself. Just a couple of other things is that going through network information, just going through a little bit of LC realities, what they're actually like, which LCs there are, and what the progress has been so far in the last couple of years. So I've only shown meetings and opens currently because, as you can see from the conversion, this was the biggest issues. So I'm looking at meetings. These are the meeting goals of 2017 that the LCs had. At the same time, the green is the actuals. You'll see that there are actually more than 7 LCs here. What actually happened was ANU dropped this product in mid-year. So they did run it in 2017, however, dropped it around, say, July or August. So that's why I'm saying that currently only 7 LCs are doing it. So it will be all these besides ANU. So the average meetings that per LC actually got for the year was about 30 meetings. So that's actually quite poor, and you would see that some LCs pulled their weight a lot more, like OnSWAR over here had 56, whereas different LCs such as M Macquarie had only 10. The high performing is OnSWAR, and it has the biggest team. They had 2 TLs with a lot of members, and also just had a bigger LC in general. The most LC performed in the second half of their term. Actually, most of their more meetings and actually opens actually happened in, say, July moving forward, and this first half year in terms of actuals and activity wasn't as high as second semester. In addition to the network culture, IGT culture is a bit isolated from the rest of the entity, being a non-focused program. So this year or this term, the focus program has been OGV. So IGT has had a little bit of trouble, and some of the members feeling a little bit more disconnected to the LC, or for example stores, because everyone else is dealing with students and they're dealing with companies. So this is a little bit isolated there, something to take note of, and as to why the culture was quite strong when the Facebook groups were kind of created. They felt more like a place where they belonged and talked about stuff a lot more. This is opens here. So what you can see is a breakdown of the total opens for 2017. You can see the blue is actually new opens, and the red is just the opens. Oh, the green is the opens in total. And what this means is that if the opens aren't new, then they are reopens, meaning they're opens from our past entities before, for example, or past partners. For example, Google was one. However, we are envisioning for that not to come in the 2018 year, or there's a company that we worked with last year and they wanted another intern. So we reopened with them. So actually only 8 new sales actually happened within 2017. That is a point to be, I guess, noted and also taken concern about as well, of that there is no new pipeline. However, we are quite strong in reopens, which is also another point to take note of in terms of the strength. So OnSWAR actually manages Google, so it's incorrect representation of how many opens they actually had here. In terms of the green, I believe it was 7 opens that OnSWAR had. So in total, end of the day, they did half of that in terms of their opens, and they only got 1 new open. The rest were reopens. The other thing was concerning that actually there was only 8 new opens for the year itself. And you can see the LCs that actually ran the product didn't have any results at all. For example, UQ and MQ Oh, actually, no, MQ had results. However, you can see that MQ and MU, they were only able to actually reopen rather than actually get new sales. Same with Monash as well. The bit here was the questions and answers. I had a couple of people ask me through Facebook, and I told them that they should post on the page, and then I'll answer it all in the webinar, so that I'm sure that everyone else will have similar questions or more questions. So I'll answer this before I actually open it up and people can ask questions that I'll answer. So the first question was, how does ICX Australia balance between the quality and the quantity of the EPs? So we currently, like what I've been explaining, is we don't have a large number of opens. So our quantity is focusing on actually opening opportunities. And in terms of quality, we have an now that we actually have more accounts, not so many. We have like currently 6 opened account. The EST, what I've recruited, is there to focus and actually assist the entity on how to do account delivery and actually streamline those skills and details down. And the advantage is that the EST is a current VP IGT, which means they were VPs in all 2017, so they know a lot of knowledge that can then actually pass down by EST. And we actually fight for both quality and quantity. It's not so much balance. However, we are struggling in finding more quantity at this moment. The second question is that, is there any strategy that LCs in Australia collaborate together to raise the number of exchange? Mainly the LC VPs are in the Facebook chat that we have. That's just VPs only. We have a Google Hangout chat each week to actually talk. So we talk about all those data there that everyone actually fills out, talk about the issues, what issues people are having, what problems, so we can actually have a hacking space so we can talk, okay, if everyone's had the similar problems, how can we work it out? What's a way forward? However, there is also not a sense of entity accountability on fighting for ICX Australia to grow in IGT significantly. Everyone has a goal to grow IGT. However, there's not like a strong power. It's like, oh, we must grow IGT in that sense. No big collaboration besides those spaces that are available. And the entity right now, the 2018 LC, with their plans and the goals, they're quite fearful in the fact that last year they weren't able to achieve a lot. So a lot of their goals and their ambition is based on what they were able to or weren't able to achieve in the previous year. So they're a little bit wary or doubtful about it if they were able to actually achieve those high numbers. And now I will stop talking, and if people have questions, I will answer the questions at this point in time. And like, if you need me to refer to back any slides.
Yeah, I would like to know if you guys have like a national timeline for when attraction is, when all the different phases of the customer flow should be happening, because you made it sound like you do based off of the R&R system you had. So I'm just curious what the timeline is.
Yes, we do, and that's something when I release this PDF, I'll maybe add that in addition to that. So mostly the timeline is following quite the global one. So if you're talking about this semester right now, so in terms of when we're actually starting to contact companies, it should be right now into probably around March. March is where the meetings will happen. That's why I was talking about sales tool to push meetings there. And then later on, you'll be actually expecting for the opens to come around in April, May, and then the account delivery itself from May into July. And then that sales timeline will repeat again for the second semester. Yes, I will include a visual one in the output.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No worries. Questions?
Sorry, I do have another one.
No worries.
Could you go a bit more into like the content that's covered in the sales tour? Is it just focused on IGT?
Content of sales tour. It was
because I know that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on. Finish your question.
Oh no, I was just saying I know that if I'm not mistaken, OGV does it as well.
Yes, that's correct. So with sales tour in IGT, it would be on sales. The one that I had delivered before, it would be on basics of sales, understanding that, and then understanding what IGT is actually about. Because sometimes at this point, last time that I did it was that members were newly recruited, so they don't fully know what IGT was about, and at the same time the VPs didn't explain it in detail. Like they explained, okay, cool, this is what you do, you contact companies, you ask for contracts. Like it was more detailed than that, but it was like explaining thoroughly the why and how that connects to the entire network, actually making it a lot bigger picture there. And then another part of that sales tool was to actually have time for them to actually do work and action spaces. We have like a mock meetings and also talking about how you should contact companies, what are the strategies, how do you actually follow them up, how do you actually get a reply out of them. There was a couple of different things there as well.
Okay, so did they have like a functional induction then before you visiting, or was your visit kind of the functional induction into IGT?
They did have a functional induction in terms of what was covered and whether it was all aligned across all LCs, not necessarily. Any other questions?
I do have more, but I feel bad asking all
No,
of them.
don't feel bad. This is good for everybody. No worries. Go for it.
And then what is the team structure that you recommend for IGT?
The team structure, it would be no less than 5 members on the LC, and if they have TLs, then it's like on a case by case. When I actually talk to the VPs, I'm like, okay, if your goal is like a lot, then yes, that makes sense to have 2 bigger teams, but in total, no less than 5 members per LC.
Mm-hmm. And so when they do have TLs, then what is the JD split between the two?
It would be the same. It would just be more upscaled sales. Like the TLs often do not have a differing role in terms of like, there is no different role in terms of one TL is account delivery, one TL is sales, because we do not have that number. So if you do have 2 TLs, they will be sales. Pretty much it's just like upscaling your sales.
Got it.
More questions? Don't feel bad. Please ask questions.
What subproduct do you guys tend to sell the most out of the 3 that you sell?
It would be mainly IT. We got IT and like web development, web or software development. So actually a lot around IT.
Okay.
More questions?
And then what visa do you guys use again? Is it like the 146, something like that?
The 416.
416.
416
Okay.
or the 4.
So
That one I need to actually check. I can't remember. Is that the 416 or the 408? With output, there will be the correct one.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And then do you yourself do any national sales?
So in the first semester, also the first half of my term, my role was actually partnership development and IGT network. So I was doing sales myself and at the same time managing the network. So I was doing sales myself. However, the team structure has changed a little bit, and we have one MCVP that is dedicated to partnership development. So he sells, purely sells as full-time, and myself now I'm managing the network entirely.
Do you have like a large majority of where your approvals naturally tend to come from, like what country they come from? Or is it pretty scattered?
It's pretty scattered. Just because of the small quantity we actually have, it's quite scattered. I haven't been able to actually draw any large inferences from that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Gina, feel free to ask questions too if you do.
Yeah, sorry.
No. I'll continue asking the questions. Not a problem. Do you have more questions?
Thank you for your presentation. I just came in, so I feel like I'm lost to have a question. So I was just waiting to see what kind of a question I can do.
Oh,
and it
good.
seems like, yeah, thank you.
Don't worry. MCPE is also here. Maggie, do you have questions? Any more questions that anyone else had?
Do you guys, what like sales methodologies do you teach? Do you teach anything like spin selling?
Methodology, yes. Yes, we do.
Okay. Are there any other ones, or is that the one? Is that like the main?
Mainly it's kind of like just like different things in terms of like follow-ups or emails or different strategies. Most often myself before this, because I didn't have an EST to do all these stuff, it was just like I've kind of like subscribe to a lot of different newsletters, a lot of different resources, and when they actually do come out, I understand them and actually have that done to the network. But with the strategy now is that I have one EST that does training, so that is his role to understand what the network actually needs and also do a lot of research to actually distribute information and training when needed.
Okay, and I'm so sorry. What does EST stand for again?
Entity support team. So like NST.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
NST. Okay, so you guys
Yep.
call it EST.
Yep.
Okay. Got it.
Other questions?
I have a question regarding to distribution of the job. Like, your MCPP in ICT, and ICT has has members in LC as well. So I wonder, how do you usually distribute the jobs of the ICT in maybe in aspects of like networking management and the sales tour and stuff like that?
So basically at the member level, what they do is go and contact companies and create contract and open that. In terms of what I do is I do the sales tours. I go around, I distribute like knowledge. I do a lot of training of creating inductions and pretty much anything on the national level. For example, even value delivery, the processes of anything along those lines, I have like quite hands-on on. And in terms of, because we don't have a large quantity of opens, when they do have an open, I work with them quite closely. However, the EST in the future will be working with them quite closely because they have actually already had experience in this.
Thank you.
No worries. Other questions? These are great questions. What else would you like to know?
So I have one more question. It is pretty kind of similar with the former question, but by the way, I was wondering, like, what is like a biggest bottleneck to have quantity of ICT? Is it like having like having troubles in opens in RC's status or MC level? Yes, I mean, like, is it hard to get opens from LC level to for ICT, or is it just a hard situation is going around in the Australian community? Is it clear?
Overall, it is quite in general, yeah, because the MC does sell IGT on our own as well. But in terms of our numbers, they're nothing of they're still not significantly larger than the LCs. Just in general, ICX in Australia have a lot of challenges in terms of creating a lot of opportunities, whether it be knowing how to sell or knowing how to do IR. We've been having the same struggles year by year. I think it's getting improving a lot more, but it's just in general, it has a lot to do with I guess the company and the external realities here as well, in terms of how we are seen or how we actually approach, because no one knows what ICX is. Like if you talk to a company, not many do actually know what ICX is. So we actually have to go out there and actually really work quite hard to push into the companies out there, to the industry, and like tell them what we are. So it's a lot of very hard and new selling. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. questions? Any other questions you have?
I think I'm good. Thank you, though.
No worries. Gina, do you have any other questions?
I'm good as well. Thank you,
Awesome.
Jenny.
Maggie, do you have any final questions or questions that you think that would be useful for MCVP candidates or applicants to know? I will take that as a no. Okay, I will be, like I said, there. I will include some of the visuals there, and whatever some of the questions, if I can have more information into the slides, I'll add that in and then fix on some of my typos. And then we'll send it out to you probably either today or tomorrow morning, a part of the PDF. And that is it. And this will be recorded if you do want to listen to my voice and my answers again. That's it. Thank you, and pretty much good luck.
Thank you, Jenny. Have a good day.
No worries. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Ivan, how do I delete? Oh, Ivan, how do I stop this? I don't really know. Because it's... Oh, stop share?
Yeah.
What?
Stop share and then stop recording.
Awesome.